And by the middle of the first rehearsal, it was already sounding like an orchestra that had been playing together for a long time. And those are some of the things I always remember about Britt.
Wonderful. And you mentioned Gabriela, or you mentioned virtuosity just now, and you told me earlier that when you were programming tonight, you had her at the forefront of your mind. So tell us about how you selected tonight's pieces.
Oh, tonight's works. Well, I wanted some standard acknowledged masterpieces on the program, and in the concerto by Grieg, we certainly have that. The Dvorak Symphony it's not the New World Symphony, but it's one of his most dramatic works, and for me personally, it's my favorite of the 9 symphonies. But I always like to program something new, and the piece that's new is by the Australian composer Nigel Westlake. And you may not know him by name, but any of you who saw the movie Babe, Pig, and Babe, Pig in the City, he composed the score for those movies. And he's very well known in Australia. And in fact, tonight's piece, which is called Flying Dream, is basically a suite of music from a film that he wrote called Paper Planes, about a young boy who had a very extraordinary gift in making and flying paper airplanes, and he ends up going to Tokyo for the World Paper Plane Throwing Contest, which sounds very trite in a way, but there's also a lot of family drama that's mixed into this film. But it's a very approachable and lovely, exciting piece, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Wonderful. And also on the program tonight, Grieg's Piano Concerto in A minor and Dvorak's Symphony No. 7 in D minor.
But my priority was to have this extraordinary musician at this concert, if at all possible. Her schedule is so crazy that we were able to get her to come here for this concert is extraordinary and very meaningful for me, because I adore her playing and I adore her as a person.
Right.
Likewise.
And you mentioned that this is your final performance of the summer before you get back to composing?
Yes. I won't be performing again until the end of August, when I play in Sweden and Germany and somewhere else. I'll be in Europe for my composing period. I have a couple of big commissions that I have to really kind of dig into now. One of them is finishing the piece for the Clyburn competition for next year. I'm the commission composer and I'm also a judge for the competition, so I'm having a lot of fun making a very difficult, naughty piece for all those young pianists, you know. So
a challenge, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when Peter, when management reached out to me and said, Peter, I would like you to come to Oregon, I immediately said yes, because I love Peter and I love Oregon, so it was a no-brainer.
Wonderful, and we're happy to have you back in Oregon. You have actually a lot of experience. You were born in Venezuela, but you have a lot of experience here in Oregon. Maybe just touch on that. The Oregon Symphony.
Yeah,
last
one
year.
Of your pieces. Yes, exactly. I played with the Oregon Symphony, one of my works called Babel, and of course did my improvisations after that. I've played in Eugene many times, which I really like. Actually, it's a really cool. I mean, all the cities, all the towns in Oregon are really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And also at the Bach Festival. So I've been here a few times. But I said to my husband yesterday, okay, definitely, next time we come to Oregon, we have to rent a camper van, and we have to visit the state. So he's been spending the whole afternoon looking at camper vans.
Oh, that's fun.
I told him everybody has a camper van here, and I want to do this. You know.
My father just bought a camper van.
There you go.
And maybe you can borrow his.
Tips.
We'll talk after this.
Right, good.
Okay. So, talk to me about how you've enjoyed working with the BFO in developing your approach and your interpretation to tonight's works.
Well, we only had yesterday's rehearsal and the dress today, and it came together very, very quickly, very easily. I think Peter is someone who's a real team player, so we're really listening to each other. And I think that's the spirit of collaboration of even though I'm the soloist, we're playing in an ensemble. I mean, I see it very much like chamber music now that I'm older, because when I was younger, it was all about the soloist. But now I understand that this is a collaboration. So I'm really enjoying that part of it. And I just feel that we're kind of reacting to each other, which is the best way to make music. And has a lot of has a deep emotional fiber in it, which I love.
Well, the orchestra also, I have to say, is a very good accompanying orchestra. They listen very, very carefully. And one of the beauties of this particular stage is that it's easy for the players to hear the soloist. Even with the piano lid up, sort of blocking the sound, because it's supposed to go to all of you, they still listen very, very intently. And it was clear after about, 37 seconds that they were really enjoying your unique interpretation of this piece.
Thank you. Likewise.
Wonderful. You, Gabriela, you have some other artist initiatives that are fairly new. You have a piano lab and an artist residency.
Yeah, well, I've moved so many times, so many different countries. I mean, I think my two daughters who are now, they've left home, but I think they have the same bug, so they keep telling me they want to live here, they want to live there, this like long list of places. And when my youngest said that she wanted to come back to the U.S. and study here, college, I said to my husband, okay, so we're living in Barcelona. I have my oldest in London. My little one wants to be in the U.S. We have to move to the U.S. I said, we have to find a way to have both. So that's what we did, and we created this fantastic artist residency in Easton, Maryland. It's a concert series where I get to invite my favorite colleagues, top artists in the world. Like, I premiered the series, and we had Yulia Wang. Then I played a recital with Joshua Bell. We've had Sergei Babayan, Marc-André Hamelin. I mean, I'm playing a recital with Gauthier Capuçon at the end of the year. I mean, it's really Carnegie Hall in this little historic town in Maryland, and it's all funded by one man, and it's an incredible initiative, and it enables me to have a foot in the U.S. and to from there travel and do my crazy concert life, and then have a foot in Europe as well. So I get to be that mama that has a foot close to the babies. Yeah.
Good. And Peter, you're at Austin, correct?
Yes.
What other musical projects are you up to lately?
Well, we're just about to finish our season with the 4th of July, which is always a big production there because we have about 80,000 people that come to our outdoor program. And then we have a little respite. But then next season will start in September, and we have a soloist named Gabriela Montero who will be playing the Prokofiev Third Concerto, which makes me very happy. And all sorts of, our season is full of all sorts of things. We also do films with live orchestra. In fact, we did Star Wars back in September, and we're doing Star Wars next week. We've got a huge screen set up in front of the pavilion, and then the orchestra plays the soundtrack live. So we've started the series, and so in September we now do Empire Strikes Back. That's next. So, gosh, but I don't want to even think about that now. I want to enjoy my time here and then take a little time off with my family.
How about just give us a little overview of, let's see, this is the first of your 4 presentations here. Right? So what can we expect in the upcoming
Well,
concerts?
believe it or not, we play tonight, then tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock we're right back up here rehearsing for a brand new program that has a work by John Estacio, who is a Canadian composer, called Wondrous Light, and it's a piece that was inspired by his vision of the Aurora Borealis. I think he went to see it, and it's a very bright, sparkly, again, very approachable piece. And then a very young violinist named Geneva Lewis is coming to play the Beethoven Violin Concerto, and then the so-called Ukrainian Symphony of Tchaikovsky. The Second Symphony, which is full of Ukrainian folk songs. And Tchaikovsky was born in the Ukraine. And this is a piece that used to be called the Little Russian Symphony. But I learned that Little Russia was the nickname that Russians gave Ukraine, and they don't like that. So it's the Ukrainian symphony that we're playing on Saturday, and then, as I mentioned, indeed, and then next week 2 performances of Star Wars.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Then I head back for another concert a week from Sunday.
Whirlwind. So how long have you two been acquainted and working together?
I don't know, it's been a few years, no?
I think it was Austin was the
Yeah.
first time, but I think we've done at least 4 or 5
At least, yeah.
going back maybe 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
See, the problem is I would love to work with her every year, but her calendar or schedule doesn't allow that. So every 4 years we have a reunion.
Well-
So maybe it's longer than 12
Well,
years.
you know, I'm entering a phase of my life now, and mentioning the Piano Lab, it's a mentoring program that I have for 9 exceptional young pianists that I mentor and I coach, and I love teaching. That's part of my next phase, also with composing. So my plan is to perform less and to only play with people that I like. So then, there you go. So we'll be seeing each other more.
Thank
I
you
have
very
a list.
much.
No, it's true. I
Thank
said
you.
that to my management. I think it's important. Yeah. Absolutely.
As we go along in our careers, it becomes more important to really focus, if we have
Yeah.
the privilege to do so, which
Exactly.
I think you do now, to focus on what really makes us happy.
Create
And,
balance.
Yeah,
Yes.
this friction.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to say about working together or with the orchestra? I'm not sure what time it is, how much time we have. But,
We have 5 minutes, I think.
Okay.
It's 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. It's
It's going by.
yeah, it's actually 25.
Oh, then we got plenty of time. Plenty of time.
Talks about all those difficult people and you've worked with.
You're not naming names.
No.
Well, can I say a little anecdote about the Grieg?
We
Actually,
love anecdotes,
So,
yes.
so there's this beautiful story about Teresa Carreño. Teresa Carreño was the great, great, great Venezuelan pianist who was loved and adored. She was like the Valkyrie of the piano at the time that Clara Schumann was also very famous. The other famous woman was a pianist and also singer, but she was mainly a concert pianist, was Teresa Carreño from Venezuela. And there's this anecdote that she was playing the Grieg concerto, and Grieg was in the audience and approached her and said, "Madame, I didn't know my concerto was so beautiful." So isn't that wonderful? I mean, and there's that connection, of course, with Venezuela, and so I always like to tell that story because it's, yeah.
Well, and to make things even weirder, the executive director of the Austin Symphony when I first came was also producing CDs of piano rolls. Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
You put the piano roll and it would play by itself. Well, he had one of the largest collections in the world of piano rolls,
Wow.
and he produced 2 CDs of Teresa Carreño
Yeah.
in Austin. He
Oh,
produced this
wow.
CD. Do you have this? It's most of her.
Well, maybe playing the Waldstein Sonata, some Schubert impromptu. I mean, I've heard some of it, but I mean, who knows what's out there? I mean, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, and she was a trailblazer, I suppose,
Oh.
because it was difficult for women to be.
Oh my gosh,
Soloists
she
at that
was a
time.
real Amazon, and she composed and she also sang. But she was married 4 times. Imagine at that time. And there's this also funny anecdote where, so she was married. Her 3rd husband was Eugene d'Albert, who was a very famous pianist in his own right at that time. But she was only really happy with her last husband, who was not a musician, but was the brother of the 2nd husband. So anyway, so they had a bunch of kids between them, Teresa Carreño and Eugene d'Albert. And there's this anecdote where he says to her, "Teresa, your kids and my kids are fighting with our kids." And she had a gun on top of the piano when she practiced. And if anybody walked any of the kids walked in, you know, she would threaten them and say, "Get out of my room," you know. So she was a really fiery woman. And
Artistic
So to speak.
discipline. Yeah.
definitely disciplined, yeah.
There was a conductor, a former conductor of the New York Philharmonic, who used to bring a gun to rehearsal.
Oh, really?
He would put it in his back pocket.
It wasn't
Yeah,
Mazel,
this was
was it?
no. This
No,
is
no.
Artur Dvorak.
Oh, Rosinski. Oh,
Yeah, now I don't know
wow.
why he brought the gun. You can't really threaten an orchestra with a gun, even back in the
Even
50s
back
and
then.
40s. But for whatever reason, maybe he just felt more comfortable with a gun in his back pocket.
Oh my God.
Yeah, times have changed, haven't they?
Times have changed. Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned her last husband was not a musician. Do you have musical spouses or family members? Are your children musical?
I have no musical anything in my family. I'm the only weirdo. And
That makes
but-
two of us.
Yes.
No, I have
oh,
no
right.
musicians in my family
Wow,
at all,
God.
distant or close.
Right. So, but my husband he's a wonderful singer. He's a wonderful baritone.
Hmm.
Huh,
Yes.
how interesting, because my wife is here, she's in the white dress there,
Yeah.
she's a soprano.
Oh my God! How funny.
Yeah, so that's the musical connection.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well, but your kids are,
My youngest, the one who is studying at Vanderbilt University right now, she has a fantastic voice and she's an amazing singer-songwriter, but she's studying something else. I think she doesn't want to be on stage, but my God, every time she sings, it's not because she's my baby, but she just gives me goosebumps. She has really something. So let's see. I don't know.
Marvelous. Peter, do you have any children?
yeah,
Musical?
I have a 16-year-old son, and we gave him violin lessons for about a year and piano lessons for about a year and a half, and none of that stuck. He's close to 6'1", and he wants to be a basketball player.
That's way better. Tell him to stick to that.
Yeah, well, trying to be a basketball player is about as secure as trying to be a musician these days. There's so much competition
Yeah, absolutely.
in sports and in music.
That's true. That's true.
We happen to be lucky.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
So Peter, not coming from a musical background, how did you stumble into it? And did your parents recognize it and support that?
Well, my father was from the Philippines. He was a diplomat, but in his spare time, he was a stereophile. So this is back in the 50s. He would buy the best hi-fi equipment, and I remember him teaching me how to very carefully put a needle on a record. And so as soon as he came home from work, there were records galore, one after the other, and it was a wide variety of music, from Broadway shows to Percy Faith and Ray Conniff and people like that, and bossa nova.
Yes.
Now, bossa nova, still to this day, is one of my most favorite types of music. There was an album called Jazz Samba with Charlie Bird, the guitarist, and Stan Getz.
Oh, nice.
And I listen to it at least 4 times a year, and it still gives me goosebumps. And it was recorded in Washington, D.C., where I was born. So I feel connected to it.
Right.
And so, and then classical, of course. He played classical music. I was the one who brought rock and roll into the house, much to his dismay. But yeah, just music was in my early life. I was a boy soprano in a boys and men's choir until I turned 13, when I was no longer a soprano. So there have been really important musical people in my life. The choir director there was like a grandfather I never had. I had a great band director in high school who gave me an opportunity to conduct the band. And so all of these, I had so many wonderful people helping me along the way.
Good mentorship.
Yes, and one of them it was Leon Fleischer, the great pianist. And his student, one of his students, was Andre Watts, who recently passed. Andre, maybe some of you remember, he came here and played all 5 Beethovens in 3 nights. And again, being able to work with such extraordinary musicians have added so much to my education,
Wonderful.
which never stops.
And this is probably the last question we have time for, but Gabriela, what was your musical upbringing like?
It was terrible. It really was.
You had to
It
fight
was
your own
like yours. No, I was born into a non-musical family. I was the first one, and my mom went out to buy Christmas gifts for the kids in the family, and she bought this little toy piano, which was meant for my older cousin. And when my grandmother saw this piano, she said, "This piano has to be for Gabrielita." So they put it in my crib. They said, well, she's 7 months old. I was 7 months old. And it was for my first Christmas. And then my parents noticed that I would spend hours at the piano trying to, with my second finger, I never banged on it, I never used my fist. It was always with my second finger, starting to play back the melodies that my mom would sing to me at night to put me to sleep. So by the time I was a year and a half, I was playing all of these children's songs, the national anthem of Venezuela. So by then they said, okay, we got a problem here. What are we gonna do? So then they decided to leave Venezuela with great sacrifices, because we didn't really have any money, and I had a small scholarship from the government back then, which was a proper government, not like now. But anyway, so we ended up in Miami, and with the worst possible teacher. She was absolutely, I was with her for 10 years, and she would teach me while watching Jeopardy and The Price is Right. I mean, so I don't know how I survived that. In fact, when I left her, I stopped playing for 2 years, went back to Venezuela, did other things. I thought of being a social worker, a psychologist. I wanted to help people. But my brain is 24 hours music. I'm a composer. I'm an improviser. You can't run away from your nature. I tried, and then ended up in London with a wonderful, wonderful teacher. So he was really my only teacher, Hamish Milne, at the Royal Academy of Music, and I was there for 5 years, and then won the 3rd prize at the Chopin competition in Warsaw, and then stopped again. So I've had a lifetime of doubts, because the way that I play, the way that I connect to music is so emotional, so deep, that it's somehow, it's all or nothing. So I would very often say, I need to do something else. I need to live life in a different way. And then I had my first daughter. Then I came back to the piano, but it's really been the last 25 years that my career just went crazy, and I fully committed to it, and I mean, it's been pretty amazing, actually. Yeah.
Well, I think I speak for all of us that we're delighted to hear you. We're really excited to hear tonight's program, and thanks for talking with us.
Thank you
very much.